Welcome to my views and news. Some news stories for you from Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Sudan. First news stories from Tigray. Former President Debretsion Gebremichael's meeting audio has been leaked. Though it has not been analyzed so far, not verified by any expert. The meeting is a virtual meeting which happened between Tigray leadership and Tigrayan diaspora. What Debretsion is saying in the audio, if it is true, it could have serious repercussions. Several questions are being raised. He's talking about disarmament. He's talking about purchase of more weapons for Tigray forces. I have this small clip for you and we'll try to analyze this clip. What does it indicate? Can we say Tigray fighters are not fully disarmed, that Tigray still is keeping a military, it wants to rearm its fighters? Secondly, viewers, PM Abiy compared people of Ethiopia and people of the US. How many are on food stamps in the US and how many are receiving food aid in Ethiopia? He tried to justify that people are dependent on food aid in Ethiopia. He tried to justify it, but justification is not convincing, by the way. Thirdly, what is happening in Sidama, viewers, in Hawassa a few weeks ago, a young girl was abducted, a young woman was abducted by a gunman of Hawassa mayor. We saw a social media campaign, the girl was released. She was recovered by police. Now another girl has been abducted in broad daylight in Sidama in Hawassa, reportedly. Fourthly, Eritrea, an Eritrean YouTuber who went missing in Eritrea, appeared on his show last night. Where was he? Because for around 2 weeks his whereabouts were unknown. He's basically from the US. He went to Eritrea, then he suddenly went missing, and there were rumors being spread about his abduction, but suddenly he appeared last night. He is still in Eritrea, I think. Lastly, Sudan, viewers, an important development. Rapid support forces have taken control of a town on Sudan Central African Republic border. So we can say now that rapid support forces are in control of one border. Sudan, Central African Republic border, they are close to controlling another border too. We have a clip for you. Firstly, viewers, since last night, a leaked audio of a meeting is being shared. It is being claimed that the meeting was held between Tigray leadership, former Tigray President Debretsion Gebremichael and Tigrayan diaspora. When was this virtual meeting held? We don't know. Is the man speaking really Debretsion? We don't know because the audio has not been analyzed so far, but no denial from Tigray side, from Debretsion himself. That is why we are sharing this news with you. Debretsion can be heard talking about disarmament, talking about purchasing of weapons, more weapons for Tigray forces. What is he saying? He says, not quote unquote, he says, we are not disarming. Our fighters have not been disarmed as reported. We are ready. If things go wrong, if things don't go our way, we'll be ready to take action. Firstly. Secondly, he said the money you sent was used to purchase materials for Tigray forces, and in future as well we could use the money to buy materials for Tigray fighters. Now, based on this leaked audio conversation between Debretsion and Tigrayan diaspora, it is being claimed that TDF is not fully disarmed. Tigray leadership is planning to rearm Tigray forces. Tigray forces will try to rebuild themselves in future, and Pretoria deal is not being implemented. Amhara activists are highlighting this issue. They are sharing this audio clip. Yes, TDF has not been fully disarmed. Everyone knows, because Tigray fighters have surrendered heavy weapons. They have surrendered rockets, missiles, Air Force weapons. They have surrendered group weapons. Still, Tigray fighters are in possession of small arms, guns, etc. They have not been surrendered. How many guns are there in Tigray? I don't know. Obviously, number would be in tens of thousands. So, everyone knows that TDF is not fully disarmed. Next point. Will Tigray government rearm Tigray forces? Well, what Debretsion is saying, it could be a way of convincing diaspora to support Tigray government. Tigray government needs money. TPLF needs money too. They need donations. And Tigrayan diaspora were staunch supporters of Tigray Defense Force. When Pretoria deal was signed, Tigrayan diaspora, majority of diaspora members rejected the deal. They said that TDF was the guarantor of safety and security of Tigray people, and that guarantee was being abandoned by Tigray leadership itself. So back then, Tigray leadership had to face the criticism from Tigrayan diaspora. That is why what Debretsion is saying, it could be a way of getting financial support from Tigrayan diaspora. The money might not be used on Tigray forces. It could just be a way of convincing diaspora to support Tigray government. Firstly. Secondly, yes, maybe it's part of the plan made by the Tigray government, Tigray leadership, that in future they might buy weapons for Tigray forces. Obviously, Tigray cannot buy weapons without approval from Ethiopian federal government. Regions cannot buy weapons from outsiders, from other countries. Regions can only buy weapons through federal government. Overall, this audio, if it is not fake, has raised some serious questions. Why? Because the atmosphere in neighboring Amhara region is anti-government. People are raising questions about, they protested in fact against disarmament of special forces. Special forces were disarmed, they were arrested. Those who did not disarm, they were told to disarm, they were arrested, some fled. We saw protests, still ongoing protests there. But in Tigray, obviously the urgency to disarm all Tigray fighters is missing. Questions are valid being raised by Amhara activists. Why was there an urgency to disarm all Amhara special force members while Tigray forces are still armed with small weapons? Was a small clip of Debretsion's leaked audio conversation with Tigrayan diaspora.
ዘይተወደ ኦዲት ጉዳይ አለው ምስቲ የተጀመረ ላይ ጉዳዩ በመንግስት ገጣዚ ኣብ ትግራይ ነው ነገር አንደማ ባልና ሆሬና እድጊት እዚ እድጊት ይውሉ ፋት ወዲሉና ወዲ ዝሁሉهم ጌርና ራሐውና ሀውና ኢልና እኮለ ይንበርና መንጎ ያው ናብ ስምዓቲና ዶዞ እድጊት አለው ዶዞ እድጊት ስለዘለው ድማ ያው ፕሬሸር ኮንዲሽን አለው ግን ሕዘውን አለው መንግስት ትግራይ ምሕዳር ትግራይ ወሲኹ ከምፅኦም ዘለዎም ዘድልየና ሕዚ ግን ያው ምፅላት የለን ኣብ ሰላም ስለ ዘለና ተጓይና ሕዚ እትና ኣይበሃል ኣብ ፕሮሰስ ዘሎ ማለት ወይ ክንደተን ዝሃብናዮም ክንእትወን ኢና ወይ ድማ ተን ዝጎደላ መሊእና ክንምፅኦ ኢና ሶ ተወጣእማ
Secondly, viewers, Prime Minister of Ethiopia, PM Abiy, defended the fact that millions of people in Ethiopia are dependent on food aid. On public television, he compared Americans who are on food stamps and Ethiopians. Take a listen to what he said, then we'll try to analyze. The reason behind his justification. Is the justification plausible? Is it convincing? Watch the clip.
ከችግር ነፃ የሆነች አሜሪካ አልተፈጠረችም። የኢትዮጵያ ሕዝብ ግማሽ የሚያህለው አሜሪካ ውስጥ በፉድ ስታምፕ የሚኖርና በየጎዳናው የሚያድር ነው። ቤት አልባ ነው። የኢትዮጵያን ግማሽ የሚያክል ከነሱ በላይ
The Prime Minister is saying that 60 million people in the US are on food stamps. And this is half of Ethiopian population. The Ethiopian population is around 120 million. So, if in Ethiopia people are dependent on food aid, it shouldn't be a big deal. That is what he was implying. Now, it's laughable, honestly. You cannot compare the food stamp in the US and what is happening in Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, people have been displaced. Those dependent on food aid are displaced people, living in miserable conditions, no access to education, no access to healthcare in some cases, no housing. And food aid, which is being given, is not being given by Ethiopian government. In most cases, food aid is coming from abroad. So if Ethiopians are dependent on food aid, even that food aid is being given by the US. USAID has been providing food aid to Ethiopia for years, though the food aid provision has been suspended because the food aid was being stolen in Ethiopia. All Ethiopian institutions, their top officers, military commanders were involved in food theft. You cannot compare the dependence on food aid in Ethiopia and in the US. In US, if a man is not unable to feed all his family members, obviously then family members can go on food stamps. Those family members who are on food stamps, they have access to the best education systems, to the best healthcare systems, to the best policing systems. How can you compare the lives of those dependent on food aid, food stamps in the US and in Ethiopia? In Ethiopia, people are dependent on food aid from abroad, not from Ethiopian government. Yes, Ethiopian government is providing food aid too, but mainly donors are supporting Ethiopians. It's the responsibility of governments to feed the people. Nothing wrong with that. That is what governments are for. Give jobs, give employment. If people cannot find jobs, help them, give them food, give them housing, give them clothing, etc. First responsibility, creation of jobs. Create environment livable for people. Give access to education, healthcare, clean drinking water, access to justice, etc. All that is missing in Ethiopia. And money is being spent on where? Building of palaces, big parks, mega projects to show how great Ethiopia is. Unity parks, museums, and now this trend is being followed by other regional governments too. PM Abiy was building a palace in Addis Ababa. Now Shimalis Abdisa is also going to build a palace in Addis Ababa for Oromia government. Trends travel down mostly from top to bottom. Priorities are not right for Ethiopian government. The government should focus on projects which will create jobs for Ethiopians. Yes, some would still be in need of food aid, and that food aid should come from Ethiopian government, not from US aid, not from World Food Program. If Ethiopia is able to export aid, then it should be export wheat, it should be able to feed all its people. Comparison between Ethiopia and US is laughable. I think Abiy should not try to justify the dependence on food aid in Ethiopia due to government's decisions, all government's decisions, regional, federal, all players' decisions. We saw that war happened in Tigray. How many were displaced? Millions. Doubt. Who is responsible? Governments. Why didn't governments make advanced decisions? Why couldn't they predict what is going to happen? Did they make any preparations in advance? So, in the end, governments are to be held accountable. You cannot just compare Ethiopia and the US. Thirdly, viewers, Hawassa, Sidama, alarming developments there. It seems there is no government, no police there, lives of women extremely unsafe in broad daylight. Young women are being abducted. Just a few days ago, after social media campaign, a girl was released. 3 weeks ago, she had been kidnapped by the gunman of Hawassa mayor. She went missing. For almost a week, she remained missing. Then the issue was taken up in social media, pressure on Sidama police. Girl was recovered, and then the gunman was arrested too. Yesterday, another young lady was abducted in Hawassa. Her name is Milat, 15-year-old girl, 8th grade student, abducted in broad daylight in Hawassa, Sidama. Where is the police? Let's hope that police recovers this girl and prevents such kidnappings of young women in Hawassa, in Sidama. Fourthly, an interesting news story about an Eritrean YouTuber based in the US. Staunch supporter of Eritrean government. And obviously it means that opposition groups, opposition diaspora are staunch critics of this YouTuber. Maebel Kiflay, who hosts a show on Alena, Walta, Hager, a YouTube channel with good following from Eritrean people, Eritrean diaspora. Maebel Kiflay went to Eritrea. Around 2 to 3 weeks ago, when he was in Eritrea, he went missing. Before that, he did some live shows from Eritrea. And it was said it was the first live show by any YouTuber from Eritrean soil. When he arrived in Eritrea, he said that he wouldn't sugarcoat facts, that he wouldn't say everything was well in Asmara in Eritrea, that he would speak about the deficiencies, he would share the clear and real picture of infrastructure, water system, other systems in Asmara, other parts of Eritrea. He went missing. And he remained missing for around 2 weeks, I think. More than 2 weeks, I think. And some of his family members confirmed that he had been abducted from a hotel in Asmara, Eritrean capital. Then we saw a campaign for his release. Opposition diaspora members said that Maebel Kiflay was supportive of Eritrean government, and now he was suffering at the hands of Eritrean government. But last night, Maebel Kiflay appeared on Walta, Alena Walta Hager, on his show on YouTube. So he is alive. He is back. I think he is still in Eritrea. So he has been released if he had been arrested by Eritrean security forces. He criticized those diaspora members who have been criticizing him, who have been launching campaigns against him, who have been misleading Eritrean government allegedly against him. So he is back. Maebel Kiflay is back hosting Alena Walta Hager. But it will be difficult for him to show the real picture from Eritrea of infrastructure, of the lives of people. He'll have to sugarcoat facts. Eritrean government does not allow this type of reporting. Eritrean government only wants good points of governance projected. It won't allow Maebel Kiflay to speak the complete truth. Let's see what happens. Will Maebel Kiflay share facts without sugarcoating them? That we'll see. Lastly, we are Sudan, where rapid support forces have taken control of a town on Sudan Central African Republic border. So RSF have reached the border now. The name of town is Dafuk. Dafuk town is right on Central African Republic Sudan border. We know that Central Darfur and Southern Darfur both share border with Central African Republic. Rapid support forces have significant presence in all zones of Darfur. There was a garrison of Sudanese army in this town reportedly. Rapid support force members stormed the garrison. They claim they arrested more than 100 Sudanese army soldiers, and then they took control of the border. It means that now easily fighters from neighboring countries, from African countries, they can enter Darfur. And we heard from Volker Perthes, former UN Special Envoy to Sudan, that fighters from some African countries were entering Darfur through Central African Republic. Now, easier for them because border has come under the control of rapid support forces. They already had a presence there, but now they are in full control of the border. And they are there on Darfur-Chad border too, because entire Al-Janin under their control, and those in Chad can see the fighting in Al-Janin or fighting on Sudan side of the border. It means they are there on Chad-Sudan border too. Two borders are accessible for them. They can receive reinforcement supplies if supplies came from Chad and from Central African Republic. Sudanese army is nowhere to be seen. Sudanese regional forces nowhere to be seen on these borders, especially though RSF will have, it will take some time for them to take control of entire border. But their presence on border has been confirmed. A clip for you from the folk showing the presence of rapid support force fighters on Sudan Central African Republic border. Thank you for watching.